grocery store, the same grocery store I've been going to for 10, 11 years. I know where everything is in this store, okay? I make out my shopping list by aisle. I can close my eyes and see where everything is in this store. Never had to ask anyone for help. I can even tell you where things are that I don't use. Imitation crab meat, horseradish, I can hook you up. I don't use those things, but I know where they are. I know where everything in this store is, including the bathrooms, okay? Everything. I'll get in there with a list that's like a mile long. I'm in and out in 20 minutes, bam, 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 just tossing stuff in my cart, owning the Kroger, owning it, knowing where everything is, and I'm in and out. It's simple, it's lovely, no issues. Today, oh God, today I go in my grocery store, and as soon as I walk in, it sounds like a construction zone. Bzzz, shelving units. There's shelving units everywhere. And then I noticed, I'm getting frazzled again thinking about it. I noticed that they're putting up greeting cards, shelves, where the bread used to be. And I think, oh mercy, heavens, what fresh hell is this? What's happening? And so I think, well, maybe they're just swapping out the bread and the greeting cards, you know, because they're both on opposite ends of the store. Maybe they're just making a quick change for some God-forsaken reason. I don't know, some unknown reason, whatever their logic is. They're putting the greeting cards where the buns used to be. And so I don't give it a second thought, and I think, well, the bread must be on the other side of the store. But as I proceed with my shopping trip, I realize something is amiss. Something is wrong. Something blasphemous has happened here. I cannot find anything. Nothing. I just want some buns, and there's greeting cards there. And then I get down in my organic section. I can't find anything. Why are there kale chips here? I don't want kale chips. Why are there kale chips here? I want organic Pop-Tarts. Why are there kale chips? So I realize something is amiss. Terrible. Just terrible. I'm getting a knot in my throat thinking about it. So I just want some juice. I go to get my juice maxi pads. There's maxi pads where the juice used to be. Why? Why? So everybody in the store is thoroughly confused. It's like traffic jams. People are going, oh, mercy. Nobody can find anything. The store has not changed once in 10 years, and all of a sudden there's maxi pads on the juice aisle. And to make it worse, the signs still read the old thing. It says juice, but you go down there and there's Kotex. So I'm standing in the middle of the maxi pad juice aisle with my hands up just thinking, what have I done to deserve this? I had 7 items on my list, just quick trip. I could have been out in 3 minutes, and now all of a sudden I'm standing here crying on the maxi pad because I can't find my juice. So I get to the frozen food aisle, and there's the man I've been looking at for 10 years, nice older man, unloading his frozen goods and stocking the shelves. And I said, excuse me, sir, can you please tell me where the frozen bread is? And he said, oh, it's where the French fries used to be. I said, where are the French fries? He said, they're where the pizzas used to be. I said, where are the pizzas? Where the breakfast foods used to be. I said, well, where are the breakfast foods? Where the juice used to be. And I said, the breakfast foods are with the maxi pads, because the maxi pads are where the juice used to be. It was just a big old cluster, and so I'm about to have it come apart, and I don't like change. I don't understand it. I don't know why they had to change things up. The Kroger was fine before this nonsense. So I get up to check out, and thank God the registers are where they've always been. They weren't out in the parking lot. And I get up there, and the sweet little girl, she says, good afternoon, did you find everything you needed? And I said, no. I didn't find anything I needed. What has happened here? It's like an episode of The Walking Dead when they're out scouring old stores with dead corpses in them looking for Tylenol, and they can't find anything because there's no electricity and they're stepping over zombie bodies. That would have been easier. That would have been easier than going to my Kroger today. Oh, Lord bless us all. I just appreciate prayers. I mean, I'll never figure this out. I will be going to get juice on the maxi pad aisle for the next 5 years. I'll be coming home with a package of wings, and my kid put it in the refrigerator. My kids be like, how are we supposed to drink this cotton Whiner, mama. And I'm gonna say, I don't know where the juice is. I hadn't seen the juice since last April. I don't know. There's maxi pads there. That's what you get. It comes mice. Oh, bless. Anyway, that's all. I'm frazzled, you guys. God bless.
All right, girls. We do not like change. Am I right? We don't like to be pushed out of our comfort zones. I was just at the Walmart at Scottsburg just this past week, and if you've been there recently, they changed up the produce section a little bit. Like, they literally took one little section that goes this way, and they shifted it around, and then it goes this way. They were lost. I was lost. There was this poor little gentleman pushing his buggy around, and he looked at me, and I'm not kidding. He said, I can't find anything. I said, I know, I can't find anything either. We don't like it when things change. We do not like change. We do not like to be pushed out of our comfort zones. We as women, we know what needs to be done. We know where to find things. We know our schedules, and we make stuff happen. And when something interrupts that, girls, we don't like it. We don't like it one bit. Even if it's God that interrupts our schedules and our comfort zones and our systems, we do not like it. Tonight, we're going to jump into one of my very favorite stories in the Bible. We're going to dig into the Old Testament. We're going to talk about Jehoshaphat. This is coming from 2 Chronicles chapter 20. This is a story about a battle. A lot of battles happened in the Old Testament. There's a lot of stories about that. And this particular battle was about Jehoshaphat. He was a king, and he was given information by an informant that there were going to be 3 armies invade his people, invade his land. And he was told that not only were there 3 armies that were going to invade, they were much bigger and much more heavily armed than he was. And he knew this. He knew he was way outnumbered when he got this information. It even says in Scripture that he was terrified when he got this news. Well, what he did, he gathered his people. He started to pray. He fasted, and he asked his people to fast. He said, we've got to find a solution to this, and the only way to find a solution to this is to go to God. And that's what they did. He gathered his people together, and they fasted and they prayed. And we're going to pick it up here in Scripture at verse 13. It says, as all the men of Judah stood before the Lord with their little ones, their wives, and children, the Spirit of the Lord came upon one of the men standing there. His name was Jehaziel. He said, listen, all you people of Judah and Jerusalem. Listen, King Jehoshaphat. This is what the Lord says. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle is not yours, but God's. Tomorrow, march out against them. You will find them coming up through the ascent of Ziz at the end of the valley that opens into the wilderness of Jeruel. But you will not even need to fight. Take your positions, then stand still and watch the Lord's victory. He is with you, O people of Judah and Jerusalem. Do not be afraid or discouraged. Go out against them tomorrow, for the Lord is with you. When King Jehoshaphat got this prophecy from God, he immediately began to worship God, and the people joined in with him. He then put a plan together. He then got a plan together, and he acted on that knowledge that he had been given. He didn't sit back and say, well, God's got this. God said he's going to take care of this, and I'm not going to have to do anything. He acted, and he put a plan together. The first thing he did was he put a worship team together. Not the typical thing that you would think a king would do getting ready to go into battle, but that's what he did. He put a worship team together, and the sole purpose of this worship team simply was to go ahead of the army, to go ahead of the soldiers, and sing and worship God for the victory that they knew was going to happen. Because worship is so important. Jehoshaphat knew how important worship was. The worshipers were to sing, give thanks to the Lord, his faithful love endures forever. We still today sing songs with that verbiage in it, with those words in it, and it's wonderful. And that's what they did. The next morning, they got up, they suited their armor up, and they headed to battle. And the battle that they were going to fight was in a valley, as it had been prophesied by God. And they were climbing the mountain. And just as the worship team crested the hill, they began to sing. And as soon as the first words came out of their mouth, God caused a mass chaos to happen within the 3 armies in the valley. And they all fought against each other, and they ended up killing each other. So that when Jehoshaphat's army crested the hill next, the only thing left in the valley was a bunch of dead bodies. Now there is so much to take away from this story. Jehoshaphat knew that he was outnumbered. He knew his response was to go to God, to turn to God and to pray and to fast. And then once God had spoken to him, he started making plans. He started acting. He started putting things in place. But the biggest takeaway that I want to unpack tonight is the fact that Jehoshaphat listened to God when God said to him, take your position. Jehoshaphat didn't know exactly what the outcome would be. He knew he was outnumbered, that he knew he trusted God and suited himself up and his army up anyway. In a battle, the phrase take your position simply means armor up, suit up, get ready to fight. And that's exactly what God meant. Jehoshaphat trusted God's instruction. The meat of this story is that in battles, we must take our position in order for God to fight battles for us. We have to put a car in gear in order for it to go, and in order for a car to go into gear, it's a whole lot easier to go into gear when that car is moving than when it's sitting still. We have to take the first step in order for God to allow us to run. We have to make the first move to love others so God is able to love them in ways we never could or we're not even capable of. We must take our positions to love. So what does it mean to take our positions to love? I think it means a lot of things. I think it means we need to take our blinders off. We've got to pay attention to the details. For example, when Aaron and I are in the car, if there's the slightest noise in the vehicle that is indicating something's wrong with it, he'll say, "Did you hear that?" And I'll say, "No." And he'll say, "Did you hear it again?" And I'll say, "No." And he'll turn the radio down. "Well, did you hear that?" And I'll say, "No, I didn't hear it." And he'll say 4 or 5 times, "Turn the air down." "I didn't hear it, I didn't hear it." Finally, I'll pick up on the sound that men just have this instinct and can hear. And then the next time I get in the car, though, that's all I hear until we get the car fixed. And it's the same way with finding opportunities to love others. God will whisper to us, "Did you hear that? Did you see that? Did you notice that person sitting by themselves? Did you notice that hurt in that person's eyes? Did you notice this?" He'll whisper those things to you, but we have got to be in tune to it. And the more in tune to those things we are, the more we recognize them. I can pick out a couple of noises in the car now because I've been trained to do so. It's the same way with loving people. We also need to pray for supernatural ability to be able to find opportunities to love one another. Have you ever been in the right place at the right time when somebody needed help? I think we've all had those experiences. I believe that we're always in the right place at the right time. We're just not always aware of it. There's always a need. We are always in a place, we are always in a position where there is a need for love that we could fill. It's just whether or not we are in tune to it. And we've got to ask for supernatural help to be in tune to those things. At some point, though, we have to stop asking and start doing. Even Moses was reprimanded as they were getting ready to walk across the Red Sea in Exodus. God said to him, the Lord said to Moses, "Why are you crying out to me? Tell the people to get moving." God tells us all the time, "Why are you crying out to me? Get moving and love people." We must take our positions and love others. We throw around the phrase love others a lot, and it can mean several things. Love is a battlefield. As I was preparing this and I come up with that phrase, I kept thinking of the 1980s-ish song, "Love is a Battlefield," that I'm sure some of you know, and I kept getting the song stuck in my head. I considered dressing the part of the 80s rock star because everybody has that inner rock star in them, but I opted not to. I went with my World's Okayest Mom shirt and thought my kids would really appreciate that. Love is not always easy, and often the action of love is way out of our comfort zone. Tonight I want to talk about taking our position to love through service, through connecting in relationships, and self-care. Take your position to love through serving. The definition in the dictionary of service is an act of helpful activity. Service, therefore, is an action, it's a verb. Oftentimes we observe instead of serve. I read once that said the word observe actually stands for, the O stands for off, and the B stands for but, and the serve stands for serve, so we should get off our butts and serve. So that's what we need to do. That's what we need to do in the church. We need to get off our butts and serve. It's what Jesus did. Jesus jumped in, he was God in the flesh, and he walked this earth and he served people. He taught it, he did it, he was our example. He got in and got his hands dirty. All of the sermons, books, prayers, well wishes won't replace loving others through serving. Going out of our comfort zone, though, and serving others doesn't need to be misinterpreted, though, as serving or working in an area where we may not be talented or gifted or qualified or ready to do. Figure out where your strengths are. Everyone in this room has got a different strength to bring to the table. We all serve in very different ways. The key is, though, we must serve. Everybody in Jehoshaphat's army had a different role. They had a different position to play in the battle. but the end goal was the same, and that was victory. Just like everybody here has a different gift to bring to the battle of loving people and serving others. Service does not have to be a life sentence. We all serve in very different ways, but much like buying shoes or trying on shoes, which I consider myself somewhat of a professional at, we have to try things on. You got to go in and try stuff on. You got to try stuff on in service and figure out, is it going to work for me or am I going to work for it? Find somebody in church and ask them to shadow them in a service area or ministry to see if it's going to fit for you, because it may or may not. You may learn something about yourself by doing that. Our schedules can be huge blinders in keeping us from serving. It's all too often we don't deliberately pass up an opportunity to serve somebody. We're just too stinking busy to see the need. We are very much distracted by our schedules. There are so many things here at Bunker Hill that happen behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, just to make everything happen. It's such a moving, this is such a moving place. That last Saturday night, Aaron and I came up here Saturday night to work on some stuff, and we pulled up here in the parking lot, and there was Miss Teddy Hartman on her hands and knees, working in the mulch, and she landscaped everything. It's beautiful, the flowers, the roses, the mulch, had done all that, and she was just here working. And that's one of the many, many pieces that happen to make Bunker Hill work. If you are not connected to a ministry here at Bunker Hill or at another church wherever you attend, or in some capacity even outside the walls of a church where you're serving God, you need to change that. Reach out and figure out ways you can serve. A kind gesture can reach a wound that only compassion can heal. That's a quote by Steve Maraboli. There are people in this world that we come across every single day that will only be reached by God through serving them. And you could be that servant. Taking your position to love through connections in relationships.
Remember when you said the guy liked Lucy? Well, it turns out you're right.
Really?
Yes, but, well, she's moving away. I'm never going to see her again.
Is there anything I can do to help?
I don't think so, sweetheart.
Is there anything you could do?
Hello, Lucy, this is Drew. I know up to this point our relationship has been strictly professional and you're leaving for Australia and all, but okay, here is the question. Would you like to go out on a date?
No.
That's not helping. All right, here we go. For real this time. I can do this.
How many of us feel like Gru when it comes to connecting with others? Connecting in any kind of relationship can be feeling like this. I personally can relate to this clip so much. I hate calling people on the phone. Like, I hate it. Hate calling on the phone. I hate to order pizza. And because at Domino's, where our house is, we live just on the boundary, the delivery boundary of where they deliver. And so if you punch in the address on the app or online, it'll say we don't deliver to that address. But then if you call the store and you give them the address and they pull it up, they're like, oh yeah, you're just like a few feet off of the map or off of our boundary, we'll go ahead and deliver to you. But the only way to get pizza is if you actually call and have to talk to a human. So I don't call and order pizza because I hate talking to people on the phone. I hate it. I despise it. It's clearly caused a tremendous amount of tension in our marriage, but I hate making phone calls. I just do. Relationships are hard, just like in this clip, whether it's a dating relationship, whether it's a friendship, whatever that relationship is, relationships are very, very hard. But guys, relationships are essential. Too much oxygen and we die. Not enough oxygen and we die. Relationships are very, very similar. We've got to find that balance because they are essential. Making connections with other people is another thing Jesus did. He did not just talk to them and see how they were doing during meet and greet on Sunday mornings. He connected with them. He met them where they were, both physically and emotionally. We were made to do life together. Those of us that have mental illness understand that point and understand that reality very, very well. And let me clarify what I mean by mental illness. Mental illness can range from anything from severe disorders, such as severe life-debilitating disorders, such as schizophrenia, all the way to anxiety and depression, and a myriad of things in between fall underneath the umbrella of mental illness. And that's what I'm speaking of today, is a clinical diagnosis of mental illness. I have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety. All too often that happens at the same time, which is just wonderful because you have the feeling of numbness and the feeling of going out of your skin all at the same time, which is just fantastic, let me tell you. But it's real, and it's a real diagnosis that I have to live with. This is the issue that I have with ordering pizza. I hate reaching out to people. But there are many misconceptions and misunderstandings about mental illness, and unfortunately a lot of those things happen within the church. If you're in this room, you fall into one of two categories. You either have a mental illness or you don't. You either have allergies or you don't have allergies. You either have the flu or you don't have the flu. And I hope if you have the flu, somebody pass around the hand sanitizer because we don't want to catch the flu. But we would never think, okay, that person with the flu and that person with the flu, if they get together and they talk, they're going to be okay and they're going to help each other heal. But all too often in the church, those that do not have mental illness oftentimes think, well, if that person with a mental illness connects with another person with a mental illness, they'll make each other better. And although that connection is essential, it's not all there is to it. We need you. Those connections are valuable, but we need your perspective, we need your attentiveness, and we need your understanding. Not at all that you get it, because we don't get it, but that you're willing to connect even when you don't get it. We need you to pay attention. Mental illness is not a choice, and the church has to stop treating it as such. We've got to go beyond meet and greet on Sunday mornings to establish roots with people. For some, that's easier than others. Making relationships can definitely push us out of our comfort zones. When we go out of our comfort zones, amazing things can happen. When my husband and I adopted our son, Boston, while we were going through the waiting process and after we were matched with him, we got asked a lot of questions. But one of the questions we got asked a lot was, are you going to be able to love him like your biological girls? And it was a legitimate concern. I mean, they really wanted to know, and my response has always been, of course. And there were times where I didn't really know, but I knew God had said, take your position in the adoption realm. And I was taking my position, and I was praying that he was going to provide that love, and he did. He provided that love for my son that's just like my daughter's. And something else, though, above and beyond that he revealed to me is the way that I love my daughters. I don't love my daughters because we share the same DNA. I oftentimes apologize to them because we share the same DNA. I love them because God put them in my life. That's the only reason I need. And Boston and the adoption that we went through with him, that showed me that. That showed me that I don't need DNA to love somebody. I need to love somebody just because God put them in my life. I don't love my sister or my brother or my mom or my dad or any of my family members because we share the same DNA. I'm mad at them sometimes because we share the same DNA. I love them because they're in my life. When we are called to love people, that's the only reason we need. If God put them in your life, then that's reason enough to love them. The last thing I want to talk about is probably what we struggle with as women the most, and it's taking your position to love through taking care of yourself. When you're on an airplane, you guys have been on an airplane, and the flight attendant is up front, and they're giving their spiel about the exits are here and here and here, and they're doing the seatbelt and all of those little things, and then they talk about when the oxygen mask drops from the ceiling. If you're traveling with a minor or somebody that helps, please attach your oxygen mask before helping the person seated next to you. Every single time, I know why they do it, but every single time, everything in my being that just goes against everything. I'm like, no, no, no. I help my kids first. I help my kids first. I would never put my mask on first and then help them. But I realize I'm very, very ineffective as a mother if I'm unconscious on a plane floor. I can't help my kids if I don't put my mask on first. And that's exactly how it is with life. We have got to take care of ourselves before we can ever care for anybody else. We must care for ourselves. Self-care is essential. Again, Jesus sets the example for this. After the death of John the Baptist and after he found out about this, he retreated. He went to the mountains. He wanted to get away. He needed some time to himself. He got away. He spent time by himself. If you continue on in that story and you read how that story ends up playing out, you understand that Jesus can sympathize with every mother of every toddler that's ever attempted to use the bathroom alone. They find you. They always find you. They found Jesus. They found him in the mountains. And if you're a mother of a toddler and you go to the bathroom, they find you. Am I right? Little fingers underneath the doors. They find you. We've first got to get to know ourselves, though. We've got to figure out what fills our tank. There are things in our lives that empty our tanks, and there are things in our life that fill our tanks. And we've got to figure out the difference between the two. We are never going to avoid everything that empties our tank. So don't lie to yourself and think that that's attainable this side of heaven. We can avoid a lot of it if we just get to know ourselves. Figure those things out. Take the time and find what fills your tank. Empty tanks won't get us very far. It could be alone time. It could be spending time with a close friend. It could be painting. It could be reading. It could be running. That one is completely beyond me. I don't get that. I don't understand it. And I can stand here and say, I've tried. Amy, you know I've tried. I don't like it. It does not fill my tank. But to each his own. There are certain seasons of our life that even sleeping could be a form of self-care, getting extra sleep. This past week, I got to wash my hair. I got to wash my hair this week. I am not kidding you. By Friday, my hair is 90% dry shampoo. And the person that invented dry shampoo, they will have a mansion with all the Nobel Peace Prize winners and all of the important people in heaven because dry shampoo is wonderful. You are worth investing the time. Invest the time in yourself so you're able to invest the time in others. We all have one note to play. And so often we think that that one note doesn't matter.
Can I borrow you for just 1 second? Do you want to try something new today? You ever played violin before?
Never.
Not be terrible. Fantastic. Have a good chat.
Oh.
That's really good. It doesn't sound really good, but it's really good that you're trying. We're gonna get this, I promise. Yeah. Whoa. Thank you so much for playing along. Anybody else want to try a little?
It takes all of us, complete with our strengths, our weaknesses, our baggage, our imperfections, for God to accomplish great things. All of us serve connect in relationships, and take care of ourselves in very unique ways, but our goal should be the same. The victory in the battle of love should always be the same: to show Jesus to others, to be Jesus to others. Jehoshaphat's army trusted his leadership. They suited up to fight a battle based on Jehoshaphat's command. In an orchestra, each instrument plays a different piece. If the woodwind section played their part alone, it simply wouldn't sound right. Each instrument and each section must trust the conductor, follow the conductor, know their part in order to accomplish the performance. So it is with God. We all have a part. We all have a note to play. Step out of your comfort zone. Take your position in the battle of love to serve, connect, and take care of yourself, and then trust the conductor. The world does not need superheroes, ladies. The world needs awkward, oily, and honest human beings in this messy world, and I hope to see you there. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you so much for loving us in our awkward, oily, and honest states. I thank you for using us. Father, we live in a great big world, in a great big battlefield, and we have so many opportunities to love others. Father, I pray that you will help us to take these seeds and take them out, and I pray that they will grow in our lives and in our hearts. And above all, our goal will be to love others as Jesus did and to be Jesus. Father, I thank you so much for every person that is here tonight. I thank you for this chance, and I thank you so much for your son. In his name I pray. Amen.